So, in this segment, we're going to be discussing Starmer's new kind of pact with France, a one in, one out policy, which gets shredded apart by Zoe Gardner. But yeah, this for me is gimmicky. Like we've seen so many of the nonsense immigration policies. All of this to stop, to not give essentially people not safe access to the UK. Like we do it for Ukraine, we do it for Hong Kong, but we won't do it for Afghanistan. We definitely should be doing it for Afghanistan at the very least, given the fact that it was the UK invasion, the UK kind of pull out of this, and the US that's caused a lot of the problems there. And we promised those people asylum. We told them, Priti Patel told them, come here and claim asylum. We should have gave them safe routes of entry. Like we arguably we owe the people of Afghanistan a lot more than we owe the people of Ukraine.
Now, this is a global crisis, and it's a European crisis, but it is also very acutely a crisis for our two nations, a crisis of law, security.
It's going to be full of filler, but point being is he's talking about, in exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come via safe route, controlled and legal. But, this gets shredded apart by Zoe Gardner.
And a total pragmatic failure. We have seen that after decades of a deterrence approach, we have more people risking their lives. We have children drowning. We have boats coming in, day out, and both of your parties completely sacrificing any good political will you ever had because of your total failure to grasp the reality that you're not going to make them disappear. What you have to do, what you just simply have to consider, is to offer them a safe alternative.
This guy right here, I actually detest this geezer.
So you're talking about safe and legal routes, like the Ukraine scheme, like
to the UK,
the Hong Kong.
like the Ukraine.
Okay, Mike Tapp, how do you respond to Zoe Gardner, and then I'll bring in Katie Lamb.
Well, if you look what we're reportedly talking about the French, obviously this hasn't been confirmed by the Home Office. It is going down that route, and look, I'm not.
It's not going down that route, and he keeps saying this word ideology so much.
Down and stuck in ideology. For me, it's about solutions. And look, if that involves offshore processing, detention on arrival, safe routes, it can be sorting out the ECHR and where that is at the moment.
Sorting out the ECHR and where that is. That's this guy. He's a Reform MP. I can Spidey sense it. Talking about immediate detention. This guy is tapped.
Your party is talking about safe routes, aren't they?
No, of course it's being discussed in general. And look,
I've heard very little coverage of it, mate. Apart from this one sentence here, which is very recent. Given that Cooper ruled it out not long ago.
One in, one out idea with the French that has been talked about is precisely that. And of course, there are safe routes.
One in, one out. By definition, if you think about it for just a moment, doesn't work, does it? Because imagine it works brilliantly, and everybody, instead of going to the channel boats, they go to that safe route. Well, then there's no one crossing the channel boats, and therefore there's no more space on the safe route. And then what happens? Well, the safe route becomes unviable, and they go back to the irregular routes. Come on, you have to see more serious.
If you don't mind, you're advocating for safe routes and then telling me they don't work. And look,
it's just a beautiful straw man he's built there. You're advocating for safe routes and tell me they don't work. Like, no, you're saying your specific safe route won't work. You're absolutely knobhead.
We've got them. We've already got them. We've got them in. We've got them in.
I think Derbyshire has to do a much better job as host here, because that's blatant straw man.
Place with Ukraine and some of the nations that really need it.
Why can't we do something like that
after the
for
smuggling,
Afghanistan? Your government cancelled the safe route for Afghans last week.
Going after the smuggling gangs and ensuring that there's deterrence there.
Yeah, I would have intervened here.
And look, you said that both our parties believe in the same thing, but it hasn't been done yet. The Conservatives.
That's what he argued about. That's what Sunak said about Rwanda. He goes, "Oh, you're arguing it won't work. It's not been done yet. You're talking down this country."
On it because Rwanda was a gimmick that wouldn't work. But if we can put through some of these serious, sensible policies to deter, then we save lives in the channel.
Okay, let me bring in Katie Lamb. How would you respond to Zoe Gardner?
500,000 people have come here on safe and legal routes since 2015. We are, and have been for a very long time, a generous country. There is no way that we could ever have a volume of safe and legal routes that on its own would stop this from happening. Demand would dramatically outstrip supply. Those
humanitarian visas are a tiny percentage of the legal migration that we saw under the last government.
But 500,000 people is a really significant number of people. The number of people who want to come here, and in fact the number of people who would be qualified to claim asylum here if they were to arrive, is massive. We're talking hundreds of millions of people around the world.
That's ridiculous.
There is no
start throwing
way.
around numbers like that is
There is
irresponsible.
no way
When we
that
gave
they
an
could all come
uncapped
here
scheme
and
for
that we could look
Ukrainians,
after them. It's
out
not
of
possible.
38 million Ukrainians, 200,000 people came, and they were offered, unlike asylum seekers now, the right to work. They were offered housing in our communities. They were offered immediate access to the welfare state, and we managed it just fine. This is
I
ridiculous.
think the only thing I'd push back on there were European-wide schemes for Ukraine. They wouldn't offer that for people from Afghanistan or Iraq or those sorts of countries, which I think it should have been a European-wide scheme, really.
Ridiculous to say that everybody on earth is coming here. Come on,
Zory
it's
Gardner,
scaremongering.
do you accept that from the voters' point of view, illegal migration is a problem?
Yes,
they don't
we made
like it.
something
They think it's
absolutely
unfair.
fundamentally necessary to people's survival illegal. Well, what happens? Of course, this is unacceptable. The people drowning, the people in the conditions that your report that showed us, people like Julia who are being told that in order to get out of that squalid camp, she has to sleep with a smuggler. All of our policies could have been designed by somebody who wanted to exploit migrants, who wanted to keep them in situations of modern slavery, keeps them in forced sex work, keep them in underpaid work where you can abuse them as you see fit, because our system criminalizes people who are here anyway.
Is that fair?
With one of those other things as well, like I think if you do arrive here by small boat, you don't. Preet Patel tried to make it so you wouldn't get access to human rights. So if you were a person like that person Julia being mentioned there, and you still managed to come to the UK, you would still be exploited by these sorts of criminal gangs.
Look, what I see from
I'm not
certain ideological
there it is. See,
viewpoints is banging on about safe routes, which I do think is a part of the solution. But of course, Katie was right in that the demand would absolutely go through the roof. So there's a number of different things we have to do. Look, the fact that it's
don't make me bring out Senator Armstrong, dude.
So bad now points towards that. The fact is we need to look at lots of different policy types and stop being bogged down in ideology. How do we stop this from happening? Maybe safe routes. Yes, offshore processing.
Well, in Pal, like, you're the one saying, or maybe safe routes. Well, you can't really poo-poo that idea until you try it, right? That was your whole argument.
Detention on arrival.
How would it stop anyone from coming if you do offshore processing? All that means actually is taking our asylum system and putting it in another country. So that means all the lawyers, all the caseworkers, all of the asylum seekers obviously have to go through that process that currently your government is taking an average of 1 to 3 years to get a person
one of the issues,
and you want to put
let
that
him
all
finish.
in another
Let
country?
him
It's
respond.
not realistic.
Let him respond.
One of the issues with being bogged down in an ideology.
There you go. You said it about 4 times there.
Is, and I've had this debate with a number of people, is that they think that you can
Sounds like you lost all of them.
argue through litigation to not deport a foreign paedophile who's come over and raped children. That's utterly disgraceful, because this is
that's a very I think that's an extremely rare example. I think if you break the law here, if you do something like that, you should be deported back to the country that you're from. Regardless of consequence at that point, because why should you have the right to violate someone else's human rights? That's a very extreme example he's given there.
This is the problem. We've been so bogged down in a left-wing ideology.
We're talking about people coming across the
I know, but this deportation side of things is really important. And if we can't remove people who shouldn't be here, we've got a big issue. And when
you can remove failed asylum seekers. You guys keep talking about how you've deported like 20,000 people, so evidently you can do that.
When I speak to people who are too far on the left or too far on the right,
I'm an enlightened centrist. I'm right in the middle. I get solutions. I'm pragmatic. Me.
Don't understand what we need to do to come up with a solution.
Well, you don't understand what we need to do, pal, because you haven't offered anything
for this, and that's where we need to come at this from.
Final word, Katie Lamb, on this.
People are working so hard. They are doing everything that they can and barely keeping their heads above water. We simply cannot afford to keep everybody.
We have a labour shortage in this country still. Like, if you offered asylum seekers the chance to work here, it wouldn't be that big a problem. Spain offer it.
Who crosses the channel in a hotel, all of their healthcare.
The reason why they're in a hotel is because you guys stopped processing claims.
Dentists, we simply can't afford it.
Right to work?
Right to work.
Incentivizes even more people to cross. It makes the problem dramatically worse.
That doesn't make any sense. In Spain, they give them the right to work, and the Spanish economy is overtaking the rest of Europe and the States, and that is based on how welcoming they are being towards migrants.
Both countries also have very serious migration and illegal migration problems. They do.
And they also process people's claims, and they don't have I don't think they've got the massive problem that we have. right now, but we go on to Zoe Gardner putting up back-to-back performances here because she has to deal with another bozo.
Programs to match asylum seekers with areas in the economy where they have skills shortages in order to get them into the kind of work that is desperately needed. In the UK,
some of these people seeking asylum are like doctors and like professionals from where they're from. Like, not all of them, obviously, not even the vast majority, but some of them actually have massive amounts of skills. They've left because of terrorist groups or repressive governments.
we desperately need people to come.
We've got to get back to basics. So from the very off, there are too many people that are coming into the country illegally. There are too many people that are coming into the country legally.
So we're going to conflate two different things here. One, the government definitely has control over. The other government has partial control over.
National conversation has
We
shifted
actually desperately need a high level of immigration into this country because we have an aging population. And if we're going to pay our pensioners a pension, and if we're going to continue to provide a health service and a care service to our elderly and vulnerable population, the fact of the matter is we rely on immigration.
Okay, I wonder if we can just not mix legal and illegal immigration, just for the
Our host's doing a good job.
purposes of this debate. I understand it is the second biggest issue, immigration.
It's because the media keep obsessing over it.
According to YouGov polling, but we're specifically focusing on the small boats,
which made up 5% of immigration to the UK
Yeah,
last
but for
year,
every
and I
person
would say
getting
about
in a boat-
95% of the conversation.
Yeah, but particularly today,
They get coverage. They get the cameras out on the speedboats in 4K looking at people.
because of course the British government gives hundreds of millions of pounds to the French in order to stop
And we should cut
the
that off right
small
now.
boats crossing.
Why? Because it's not working.
Well, it's not working, is
Yeah,
it?
it's not working.
And this deal that they're going to announce today, of course, that's not going to work either. We've seen this on repeat. It's like we're on Groundhog Day. We need a different approach,
Well, what
one
would
that
you
recognises people need to come here.
What would your
The deterrents aren't working. That's the problem because they're not built to work.
response be to the fact that the French president, in quite careful language, and one of his MPs in Paris in much more blunt language, have basically told us off in this country? They've said, you guys are asking for it. You're making it, we read out the package of benefits that people get when they get here. You're asking for it. You're making it much, much too attractive.
Did Macron say this? I don't think Macron would have said this.
To come across the channel. And that's your problem. That's what you need to deal with.
Well, I think on TV we call that being political, and normal
Well, maybe he did.
people in their living rooms will call that lies. You just said more people seek asylum
I
in
think most
France. The
people
French
call it
benefit
accurate.
system is more generous than ours. People in the asylum
don't
system...
think
It's also much quicker. The French system is, I think it's like 6 months to a year, whereas the UK, I think we're on like 2+.
I speak on
are
behalf of a
entitled to
majority that actually you don't represent. I agree. I think that most
The majority aren't always correct, especially when they've got idiots like you giving them snake oil on a daily basis.
people, and you can see this in polls, you can certainly see it in response to programs like this, do actually...
Yeah, of course. Yeah, problems like this where you got one bozo who's backing the other bozo next to him.
think the Britain's a soft touch. Now, you may disagree with that, but you can't speak and say that
But
there's
it's
a majority
actually
that doesn't
not
think that, because they don't.
easier to be a refugee here in the UK than it is in France. And as I said, they have the right
Sorry,
to
so
work
it is
in
or isn't?
France. It factually is not easier here. It is easier in the sense that you may speak the language, you may have
But it's
cultural
the attraction.
ties,
That's
you may
What attraction, bro?
question. It's
family
the attraction.
members.
People want to come to the UK. They're not stopping in at France, which is a safe country. They're coming in.
I mean, there are significant amount of people stopping in France. That is not true. Famous example, Francis Ngannou. He seeked asylum in France, or sought asylum in France.
The UK because of
Why
those
do you
pull.
think, Charlie?
I think because of those pull factors. I think people do.
You get more money in France for a start, and you'll get less. I think you'll get less hatred over there as well, which is, shouts out to the French, I guess.
Recognise that maybe the UK is a soft touch. When you come into the UK, you'll get put up in a hotel. You'll get a certain amount of benefits.
Where would you be
It'll also take 2 years to hear your claim, buddy.
put up if you stayed in France?
Well, you're seeing
You're
people
also provided with accommodation as an asylum seeker in France, and
why
across
is-
everywhere
you're
in
seeing
Europe.
people in tents. You're seeing people in tents.
Yeah, but
on
they're
telly,
not
which is-
people who have
which is-
applied for
which is-
asylum in France. They're people who are trying to get to the UK because they have ties
Because
to
they
this
see that the
country, and
UK
we don't
is-
give them
is
any
more of a
safe-
No, you just, bro. Like honestly, like you know what? There were many weeks I didn't use the Senator Armstrong clip, and it looks like it's just he's getting a lot of use again.
The fuck up.
Honestly,
Get the fuck up.
Oops.
Forces that I...
touch, and when you come into the UK, you'll get those benefits that you
The
won't
fact of
necessarily
the matter is that
get
70%
elsewhere.
of the asylum seekers who've come to the UK in the last 20 years came from countries that we had previously colonised. That means they speak the language,
No,
they
the
have
fact
ties
is-
to this
no,
country, we have
the fact
communities.
is
We
it's
also told people from Afghanistan to come here.
It's about fairness, and I think that this country. I worked in the department.
How is it fair that we have a different system for people from Ukraine than we do from people from Afghanistan? Where's the fairness there, buddy?
levelling up when we had the Homes for Ukraine scheme. That was making sure that we could identify people that needed to flee persecution. They got a home, they got the support. But people that come into this country who tend to be, you've only got to look at the pictures of working age young men that come into the country that don't...
Do you know why they do that? It's because they get their families in after, once they've got asylum here, then they'll get asylum for their families.
Have a passport that you don't know where they've come from.
Don't have a passport. How would they seek asylum? What are they going to say? I'm from Afghanistan. What part of Afghanistan are you from? Do you speak the tongue from that area? They do language check these people, bozo.
From what they're here to do, those people need to be returned.
But if we set up a safe route, we would know.
I'm from Damascus. I don't speak a word of Arabic.
Who they were and where they came from.
Can I just ask you this? Do you think that there should
2v1
be any cap on immigration into this country?
I think that immigration manages itself because people come here because there is opportunity. We have skills shortages. We have a desperate need for labour.
So we've gone back to conflating illegal and legal immigration. And again, Zory Gardner's right, because people, to get a job here, people need to get work visas. So there have to be some sort of promise of a job. Otherwise they'll get deported.
But asylum seekers who have not had their claims processed are not able to legally enter.
Entitled to legally work. And
so you don't think there should be any cap at all?
I don't think there is.
My brother in Christ, you've literally conflated the issue again. Two different things.
You think it's self-regulating?
Yes, I do think it is self-regulating. I think that there is...
He asked about immigration. She said it is largely self-regulating, which I agree with.
Obvious need in this country for us to fill the labour market shortages that we have. And we can do that with the people who desperately need to come here. We can manage an immigration system.
It should be about the brightest and the best. People who we know where they're coming from. We know what their skills are.
But we would know if we created the routes to let them enter regularly.
That's the point. We don't, because people turn up, they chuck their passport in.
Bro, like, honestly, if we allowed people to seek asylum from embassies, then yes, they would have to prove where they're from. Like, this guy, absolute bozo.
To the sea before they arrive. We don't know their name. We don't know where they come from.
How are they going to seek asylum if you don't know their name? I'm Tom Kennedy from Damascus. Come on, bro. This grow up. Honestly, where'd they find this geezer?
We don't know where they're fleeing. If we knew that information, we would help them.
As you say, you used to be an advisor, and you see how government
Who did you advise?
works. Is there an issue that the asylum applications are simply not dealt with speedily enough?
Yes, that is the issue.
And then once someone, it's decided, does not have a legal right to be here, what happens to that person? Are they then, do we have a reluctance or an inability to deport them?
As far as I'm aware, we can.
I think that's absolutely... There is an inability to deport people. We had a returns agreement with Albania where I think 90% of people were returned under the last government, but there are too many people. I mean, if you just go on holiday, if you go to the United States, when you get to border control, you've got to tell them who you are, where you're staying, what you're doing, if it's for
and we do the same thing.
Well, look, you said that
but people that come to the UK...
If people fly to Gatwick and Heathrow, they'll be asked the same thing.
Okay, if we don't know who they are, if we don't know their name...
But if we set up a safe...
But, like, he's conflating two different things here. If you go across the Mexican border to the US via irregular means, it's the same problem that we have with the English Channel.
Route, we would.
And we set up a safe route, for example,
we deny them access. You talked about the...
This guy's so dumb. He's so dumb, guys. Oh, this guy's such an idiot. Like, he doesn't get that Zory Gardner's agreeing with him to set up a Ukraine-style scheme with other countries. Like, he's talking about how good the Ukraine scheme is. And she's saying we should do it for other countries. Like, oh, we can't because you don't know where these people are from. This guy, oh, he's so stupid. Wow.
Ukrainians, but
exactly. Why don't we do something like that
because
for the refugees who are across Europe who have ties to the UK
we don't
and are
know
going
who
to
these
come here
people are.
otherwise?
Sorry, I can't keep going with this clip. This guy's he's a straight bozo. Straight bozo. And then we go to someone who's got actual expertise on the subject, not the bozo we just looked at.
No, not at all.
So he's asked about, is it possible to smash small gangs?
I mean, I've been looking at this for over a decade now, and these networks, we call them gangs, but they are highly sophisticated networks that span not only Europe but the globe. They have evolved into, such a ridiculously smooth operation run by networks from many different nationalities, and it's only just recently I've seen this slow movement of governments around Europe, in particular France and the UK, starting to think about coming up with a plan. But in terms of smashing the gangs as a strapline, yeah, it works for the voters maybe, but what all you can really hope to do, and I agree with Caroline because I've been listening in, is that you can disrupt certain times you'll have success in disrupting a network like the Scorpion network that
or you can give people safe routes of entry, and that way you take away all the incentive from the smuggling gangs. There are solutions to this. We're just not looking at them through reluctance or through xenophobia. I don't know, but all of this, the promise to smash the gangs and ramp up enforcement, but crossings are now at a record high. It's not working out, guys. It's not working. I'll tell you that for free, honestly. But yeah, we're gonna leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. The goat right here, dealing with all these clowns again. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Support Zory Gardner's channel and her work. Support me on Patreon if you can. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.